So talk to me a little bit about what you're seeing and you know, why you are making this comment about the jails serving not only as a place for incarceration, but mental health treatment and addiction treatment.
Sure, and it certainly, you know, kind of changed corrections. You know, back in 1973, the state started to close down all of its what were known at the time as mental hospitals. The thought was that with the new type of psychiatric medications that were available, that people could be let back into the community and they could live in community settings. And there was some heat at the time over, you know, institutionalization of people with mental illness and overcrowding and, you know, mistreatment and stuff like that. So, so the state closed down all the mental hospitals, and the fact of living in the community using new medications didn't work.
Sure.
So these people are out there now, and unfortunately they act out in society, and there's nowhere else to send them, so they send them to a correctional facility. And as you can imagine, correctional facilities weren't built or designed as mental health hospitals, and it's not a good thing. I think anyone can relate to putting a person with mental health issues in an 8x10 cell.
Right.
It just doesn't work well. We've trained our staff. It's become part of our regular Correctional Officers Academy now. There's 3 days that's dedicated to training our staff on mental health and how to deal with people with different mental disorders, as well as telling the difference between somebody who might have a mental disorder and somebody who may just have a behavioral problem. We've had to hire a psychiatric services vendor to help us with our mental health issues. We're working with Cape Cod Healthcare. We got a grant through them relative to mental health, so that we can identify these folks and get them in a treatment program. And then when they leave the correctional facility, we have them set up with follow-up care in mental health. And as long as they stay with that, you know, hopefully we won't see them again. But it is really a tough situation, and it's you know, all that expense before that was borne by the mental health facilities that the state ran are now being borne by us in the correctional industry. You know, our inmate counts are going down, but because of the opiate crisis and the mental health issues, the treatment, both mental health and addictive treatments that we're now providing in correctional facilities are keeping our budgets up there.
Sure, and by design, the correctional facility isn't really set up to be a mental hospital or an addiction treatment center. And as you said, you know, someone who is suffering from mental health issues, you take them off the streets, sure, but then you put them in a 10x10 cell, and that might exacerbate the issue.
Absolutely. You know, we have certain rules that have to be followed inside of a correctional facility, and if someone violates them, they're given sanctions, and usually the sanctions have some type of segregation set into them, which probably isn't good for a mental health person either. So, and you get in trouble inside the jail, that affects your ability to get paroled early and get out of jail earlier. So they tend to do longer sentences. So it's just not a good situation. If there's any benefit to it, it's the fact that they are at least getting some type of treatment for their mental health issues. And you know, as we see all the time, folks with mental health problems don't necessarily like the way that the drugs that they're given for their mental health issue make them feel, so they self-medicate with alcohol or illicit street drugs, and that's usually how they end up in jail.
Sure, and what kind of an impact is that on your budget and really your ability to provide the services, you know, that's set forth in the mission of the correctional facility?
Well, we've had to hire the mental health vendor, so there's certainly an expense with that. And the psychotropic medications that these people require are very expensive.
Sure, and in terms of addiction treatment, I mean, I know we've talked in the past about the Vivitrol program, which continues to be successful. Can you give just a brief update on how that's going, and if there are other addiction treatment things that you are implementing at the correctional facility?
Yep, you know, the Vivitrol program is part of our residential substance abuse treatment program. Is still going very well. We're up over 255 injections so far, and still showing great success. About 80% of the population has some issue with substance abuse. About 50% have been diagnosed with some mental health problem, and then of course there's many who come into our facility that have dual, both substance abuse and mental health, and then there's those folks who have mental health issues but have never been diagnosed with them. So, you know, it's a lot of work that goes into somebody when they're first admitted into the jail, and we get them, we get them sober and detoxed initially, and we're detoxing about 40% of the folks who come into the jail need some type of medical detox. So we're doing that, and then setting them up in the necessary programs, and making sure they get the care they want, if they want it.
Did you ever foresee that that you would be dealing with such a large scale kind of mental health / addiction issue within the correctional facility?
You know, not to this magnitude. There was always those folks who would come to us that had mental health issues, and we knew who they were, and were pretty much able to take care of them. But it just seems to continually grow. More and more folks with mental health issues, and that certainly has something to do with the facilities being closed down. And then I think by closing down, they increased the people with mental health going to jail, and they increased the homeless population, and I think it added to the substance abuse issue as well. So it's a serious problem, and it's something the staff has to deal with 24/7. And we've given them some training, and we're going to give them some more training, and we have now professionals working inside the jail with the mental health issues. So we're dealing with it as best we can. But again, the jail isn't designed as a mental health facility. It's designed as a jail, so we still have that architectural problem that we have to overcome.
Of course. Well, certainly kudos to you and the staff for doing the best you can in trying to deal with that. Sheriff, I thank you so much for joining me today.
Pleasure to be here once again, Sarah.
Thank you.